This tutorial will show how to use the T-Splines for Rhino plugin to create a smooth bathtub starting from curves. During the course of this tutorial, many T-Splines commands will be introduced. We'll start creating the bathtub by laying down some curves using the Rhino control point curve command. So just click here on this icon, and you can just click in one of the orthogonal views to lay down a curve, which will be the side of one of the sides of our bathtub. Now I've actually already laid out these curves, and I'll just go here and turn on my layer with all those curves, and I'll actually delete that curve that I just laid down because I already have these curves laid out that are nice and evenly spaced. And you can see the control point count of these curves. After our curves are laid out, we need to fit a surface through these curves, and we will do that using the Rhino loft command. So we will select the Rhino loft command, select the curves in order so we can loft them. Then there's a few different loft styles, and we will use the straight sections style and then hit OK. So now we've lofted these curves to create a Rhino poly surface. Let me change my display so it might be a little bit easier to see this now. The next step is to convert this to a T-spline surface. So to convert it to T-splines, we use the Convert to T-Splines icon. And actually this whole toolbar contains the T-splines commands. Everything else in my display is Rhino 4, and this toolbar is the integrated T-Splines plugin. So to convert this to T-Splines, I can just click the Convert to T-Splines icon and then select the poly surface. You can tell that actually I'm not able to select the poly surface because it says I need to select a surface or a mesh to convert to T-splines, and this is a poly surface. So let me back out of this command and first explode this poly surface. And so that's exploded it into 3 surfaces. And now I can use the Convert to T-Splines icon to convert them to T-splines. You can see after the conversion to T-splines, the surfaces remain the same. This is a lossless conversion. You can actually convert any untrimmed NURBS surface to T-splines. Just going to go ahead and turn off the layer with those curves to get them out of the way. So now what I have is 3 T-spline surfaces, and I need to connect them in a smooth way to create a single smooth surface. We can do that using the T-Splines merge command, which will merge T-Splines edges. So in order to select the edges, what I'll do is I'll turn on the T-Splines manipulator by clicking on the translate icon. This brings up a heads-up display, which gives me different manipulators, the translate, let me go back to the shaded mode, rotate, and scale manipulators. Also, it goes between the different modes of selection, so object mode, vertex mode, edge mode, and face mode. And then there's some other options as well. So I will go to edge mode and select some edges here. You can see the T-spline selection inside edit mode is different than the Rhino selection. We have pre-selection highlighting. So when I click here, I'll just click and select the closest T-spline's edge. So you can see I've selected one T-spline's edge here. There's actually 2 coincident edges here because of the 2 different surfaces. And the easiest way to select each of those edges is by crossing selection. So to do crossing selection, just click off to the right of the grips you want to select, and then marquee select by clicking and holding and drawing a box, and whatever grips that box crosses will be selected. So you can see that's selected both of the T-spline's edges on the border edges of the respective surfaces. So now we have that selected, and I'd actually like to merge the entire border edge loop here, not just those edges. So to select the border edge loop, I will go inside the T-Spline's selection tool. So I'll click and hold to pop out this toolbar, and then I will select the Select Edge Loop command. You can see how that selects the entire border edge loop of both of the edges selected. So I have 14 edges selected now. So now to merge those, I just run the Merge Edges command. You can see it will merge those two surfaces into one single curvature continuous surface. Now I'll go ahead and do that one more time with these two surfaces. So again, if I just click here, it will only select one of the edges. So to select both edges, I will do the marquee crossing selection. So I'll click off to the side and then drag this rectangle across the grips I want selected, and it will select both of those edges. Then to select the whole edge loop, I do the Select Edge Loop command, and that will give me the 14 edges, the 7 on each surface border. And then I can merge those edges. So now I have merged this into one single smooth T-spline, and by merging those and making it smooth, I actually washed out a decent amount of the detail that I had before. Because remember, this used to meet at right angles, and now since there's not very many control points, it's really kind of washed out that detail. So I'd like to add some definition back in here, kind of tighten up these angles. And the way to add more definition or a tighter curve to a T-spline model is by just adding more control points, because the closer the control points are, then the tighter the surface will be. So one way we have of adding more control points is by adding an edge or an edge loop. So what I'll do is I'll select an edge here, and I have that edge selected, and then I'll use that same Select Edge Loop command to select this whole edge loop, and I will use the T-Spline's Insert Edge command to insert more detail here. So I'll just right click on this icon, and we have a few options. Insertion type simple, we'll keep that, and we'll turn on both sides so that I'm inserting an edge on both sides of that existing edge. You can see as I mouse around here, there's a preview of what the where that edge will be inserted, and also I have an exact numerical value as well that you can see. So I have two options. One, I can just freehand this, and so that's what I'll do for this one. I'll just kind of click here, and that will insert an edge both above and below the existing edge, and you can see that's really tightened up my detail here. I'll go ahead and repeat that on this other edge here. So I'll select that edge, do the edge loop selection, and do the insert edge command again. So right click on this, insert both sides. This time, instead of inserting freehand, which I could do, I'll type a percentage between 0 and 1. So I will type maybe 0.15 so that it's inserted close to the existing edge, and hit enter. You can see how that's inserted an edge here. So now we've added back some definition to our surface here. This is still a single T-spline surface. So I have the definition that I want here, but the downside is that the definition extends all the way to the edge of the surface, just like it would in NURBS. The benefit of T-splines, though, is that I can delete edges or faces or points where I don't want them in the model. So here on the edge of this surface, it would be nice to just have this flatten out instead of bunch up here. And so I'll do another crossing selection and select some edges that I don't want in the model, and then I'll just hit the delete icon, and it will delete those edges from the model so that my surface becomes smooth there. I'll go ahead and repeat that same process here on the end with these three bunches of edges. So I'll just marquee select to select these, then hold down Shift as I select these edges. And again, hit the delete icon or just the delete key on my computer. And now I've flattened out the model here. So what I'm left with is a surface that has some high detail right here that completely flattens out. And the surface is still editable. I can still select edges or points and move them around, and the surface still behaves smoothly. These are what we call T-points, and the surface is curvature continuous smooth there. So now what I've done is I've created half of the wall of my bathtub, and if I was creating this in Rhino, I could probably mirror it and then add a bottom on and fillet it and finish off my bathtub. But with T-splines, I have an option of having a little bit more organic control over the surface. So I'm going to create the whole tub as a single editable T-spline. So to do that, I need to add a little bit more control to my surface. So I'll select an edge down here, and then I will select the whole border edge. In the past, I've been selecting the edge loop like this. That works. Another shortcut, though, is if I just double-click, it will also select the whole edge loop. So I'll select that edge loop there, and then I'll use the T-spline's extrude command. You can extrude both edges and faces, and since I have edges selected, we'll just extrude this edge, and you can see it's added a new edge there, so I can extrude my surface downwards. So I'll extrude that downwards just a little bit. I'll also switch to my scale manipulator and drag that box to scale in 3D, to scale that in. So I'm kind of adding a little bit of a bottom now. Then I'll select these three edges again and do another extrusion. So I'll click on the extrude edges command. And this time I'll actually drag my x-axis on my translate manipulator to extrude those edges straight perpendicular to my surface. So you can see now I'm really adding a bottom onto this tub. I have the middle part down, and now I need to add some bottom here, and I'll use another command for that. I'll use the Append Face command. And before I switch to the Append Face command, though, I'm going to switch from this smooth T-splines display to what we call box mode. So I can access that by clicking the smooth toggle icon, clicking on my T-spline and hitting enter. You can see now my T-splines model is displayed as a boxy mesh, which just makes it a little bit easier to see the topology of my surface. And this is how I prefer to work when I'm adding faces. So I'll use the Append Face command now. Click on the T-spline, and then just click on the corners of where I want this face to be appended. After I click on the four corners, then you can see the dotted line shows that the face will be brought back to my starting point. So I can just hit enter, and it will add or append that face there. I can append another face here, so let's go through that command again. Click on the Append Face command, click on my T-spline, and then click on the different points of the face. And then hit enter. So now I've added these two faces in the corners of the tub, and I'll go back to smooth mode by clicking the smooth toggle button and see what my model looks like. So you can see we've added, by adding this face, now what we have is a non-rectangular surface that's still smooth and can still be edited as a T-spline. And these points here are what we call star points in the T-spline. Now that I've created half of my tub, I'd like to use the T-spline Symmetry command to add symmetry. However, first I need to have a completely straight axis, which I don't have right now. To straighten that out, we can use some of the Rhino commands. So I'll just double click here to select the whole T-Spline's edge. Then I'll go back to vertex mode, and looks like I've lost my selection. One way of keeping your selection when going from edge mode to vertex mode is, instead of toggling by clicking that mode right there, pull out the grip selection icons. So again, I'll double click to select this whole edge, and if I just go straight to vertex mode, you can see it will keep my selection there. Then I'll use the Rhino command called project to C-plane. I'll just type that in here, project to C-plane. And then I'll switch, so I'm just looking at the right perspective, so we'll project to this right C-plane. Yes, I'll delete the input objects. Then when we go back to perspective mode, you can see that what that's done is it has lined up all those control points along that axis, along that plane. So now I can use T-Spline symmetry. Symmetry is turned on by using the Symmetry On button. Then select the T-spline that you'd like to add symmetry to. Then you select the axis that you will turn symmetry on for. So here we'll turn it on for X symmetry and hit enter. And you can see that we now have a symmetric model, which you can tell because of the green symmetry lines. So now if I go back to face mode, anytime I move a face on one side of the model, it will be updated on the other side as well. So with symmetry on, let me dock these toolbars. I can move faces down here, so maybe I'll select both of these faces and pull them down to add some depth to my tub here. Also, if I want to add more detail to my tub, like if I want to add some stairs here, then I can again just work on the one side of the model and it will update on the other side. So to add more detail for stairs, I'll use the same command we've used previously, which is the insert edge command. So right click on this icon and select a face. Let's see, it says it can't insert a new edge. Actually, it's easier if we go to edge mode. Now let's try that again. Insert edge. Okay, so now I can do it on both sides like I've done previously, or I can just do it on one side. So I'll just insert an edge on the one side. And again, we'll keep the insertion type as simple because we want the surface to change here. So you can see that changes the surface and adds a new edge that's just local here. So I will repeat this command, insert an edge, to add some more detail for the steps. Let's see, let's do that a couple more times. Insert an edge. And one more time. So now we've added this additional detail, and I can just select the edges. Let me change my drag mode to the world view and just move the surface around, and you can see I'm able to detail my model this way. Just add some gradual steps there. One other thing we can do, that insert edge command gives me a nice kind of soft crease. If I want a perfectly sharp crease, I can use the T-Spline's crease command. This will give you a perfectly sharp crease. So you can just select the edge you want to crease. You can see how that gives us a perfectly sharp C0 crease. And you can see that crease kind of comes up the side of my tub a little bit. The influence of the crease, just like any other control point in T-splines or NURBS, extends two faces beyond the actual crease. So that's why it kind of fades out across these faces. If I want to limit the influence of the crease, let me just hit undo. I can subdivide the T-Spline's model by that crease so that the influence won't go so far. So let's just change to face mode and select these faces to subdivide them. Actually, first let me enter the subdivide command. We've been doing the simple option every time we've been adding geometry, but if we want to do the exact option, then the surface will not change at all after the new geometry is added. So I'll do exact and hit OK. And what this will do is it will turn off symmetry when we do exact insertion. But you can see it's added more geometry and the surface hasn't changed at all there. So now as we crease, we can select the edges that we want to crease and turn on the shade mode. You can see that the crease does not go as far now. It dies out here before it climbs up the side of the tub. So there's the crease, and we can control the tangency here at the crease by using the T-Spline's tangency handles. So before I turn on the tangency handles, I'm just going to first move some of these faces down so they're coming in a little bit better. Actually, let me select these ones too. Coming in at a better angle to that crease. Then when we go to vertex mode, you can see that these tangency handles are the white control points, the ones that are kind of inverted. These are the tangency handles. So we can select the tangency handles. Select that one, and this one. And then as I move those tangency handles, you can see the tangency coming into the crease changes. So we can make that flat. Then also it can be useful to go to, because you can see the surface isn't really very flat here, we can go to box mode and see a little bit better how the surface is looking. So you can see this makes it obvious how the surface is not as flat here. So now we can select these edges, or it's probably easier to select these faces and bring them down so that my model's coming in kind of flatter into that crease. Let's see how that's looking. Go back to smooth mode. So that's looking a little bit better. Another trick we can use to get this flat is to, let me just select all of these faces. We can select all the faces and then go to vertex mode and use the flatten points command, and that will flatten all those points to a plane that passes through the points. So let's see, it looks like that worked pretty well. We still have a ridge there. Maybe that's with the tangency handles. Let's see how the tangency handles are looking now. Yep, you can see how those tangency handles were not flattened. They're just kind of pointing up like that. So now if we grab the tangency handles, we can pull them down, and now we've got a pretty nice looking flat transition into that sharp crease here on that model. Okay, so we can continue to work with our model to modify it as we want to. But at the end of most modeling processes, we'll need, or at least in this case, we'll need to fit the T-spline surface into a larger NURBS part. So let me just switch to the render of our final model. You can see this is the T-spline that's been rendered with the isoparms turned on. And we need to make it fit inside of the rest of the tub. And in this instance, that part has been modeled using trimmed NURBS. So here we have the trimmed NURBS outside that we need to make the T-splines fit to. We can fit the T-splines to the trimmed NURBS by using the T-splines match surface command. So let me switch the mode to edge mode. And again, I'll use our shortcut of double clicking on this edge to select that whole edge loop. Then I'll enter the T-splines match surface command. And it says to select the edge to match. What you need to do is look for the little white point on the T-spline's edge and then click on the edge that you want it to match to nearby that point. So I'll click here, then hit enter. Now you can determine the continuity. So we'll do curvature continuity. And then if you click refine, then it will refine the T-spline model. I'll hit enter so that it will match up to whatever you're matching it to within the file tolerance. So you can see that's added a little bit of detail to the T-spline's model, but it now matches up smoothly to the NURBS assembly. And you can still manipulate this T-spline and it will still update smoothly. So finally, what we can do is just convert the T-spline to a NURBS. So I'll hit escape to exit edit mode and then just right click on this to convert the T-spline to a Rhino NURBS or poly surface. Hit enter. And now this is a poly surface, and I can join it to the rest of the surface. So now I have a single watertight poly surface that was created by making a single watertight T-spline and combining it with my trimmed NURBS surface.